This is our favourite person.
What do you have in there?
She controls our coffee and we love her so much.
Question. What am I having?
Long black.
Long black.
You going on black?
I'll go on long black.
I don't think I've ever seen you drink anything else.
No. Well,
I do.
well, no, there's 2 shots already, isn't there? Yeah, so large, 2 shots. You want 3? Nah, I like to have at least 3 coffees throughout the day. So.
No, that's true. Maybe I'll just have a normal one and then I'll have 2.
Alright.
I'd rather have 2 normal ones.
Two.
I'm gonna need it.
Let's have 2 double shots, extra shots. Easy.
It's a good question. How much caffeine should you have?
Yeah, so there you go, Leechy. How much caffeine should you have in a day?
Well, look, everything's got its point of truth. What you're saying. Probably, if you're coming into making cakes, I'd say 2 to 3 a day. Is it good math? It's high quality. It's high quality.
It is, isn't it? It's good. I love it. What was that? What is that bubble tea thing?
I think, yes, that just obviously got a build up in his intestine.
But why would you want to drink tea with bits in it?
Why would you
I don't even eat yogurt with bits in
Bubble
it.
tea. Bubble tea.
What is it?
More popular sort of in Asia.
What is it?
I don't know. I've never done it. They're usually, yeah, I don't think they're particularly, they're not like normal tea in terms of having any sort of benefit.
No,
Yeah,
you just.
I think the warning is that from learning stories is that if you consume too much of anything,
He's got long arms.
He loves the behind the scenes shot.
Behind the scenes.
Love the behind the scenes shot, don't you?
from the outside looking in. Look, I think the moral of things like the bubble tea and the caffeine death is that you can overdose on anything.
Yeah.
So everything is toxic, has a toxic amount, even water. Josh.
Yeah, I've heard.
Oh, yeah.
I literally heard a thing the other day that you don't hear people that often die from dehydration. You hear more people die from drinking too much water.
So that'll be people that are
How
going
much
out.
water would they drink though?
Well, it'll be on a really hot day where they are doing a marathon for the first time, but they're going to be out there for sort of 5 to 6 hours, and they're consuming too much water. So they're losing their essential salts. So they get
Oh, because they're flushing themselves out.
Yeah.
So basically, they get what's called hyponatremia. So your sodium levels go down, and you need sodium's an essential thing for to support life, and so you die. So
So that's why I put thing in my drink bottle. It's got all these things in it so I don't just drink water. Is that right?
so yeah, you want to include things that have salts in them and electrolytes.
I have one drink bottle on my bike that's water, but one drink bottle that's got things in it,
Right.
like electrolytes or whatever that was that we were going to get.
Look, it's not really a major concern for someone like Joey Daly, who's just going to finish these things in 4 minutes.
We're not all born that way.
We're not all born that way. No.
Especially Betty
We're not all,
Bergie.
we're not all Lady Gaga.
Betty Bergie said that. That.
Oh, was it? Benny Bergie.
Yeah.
Smart man. Smart man. Do you want a question, Leech?
Coffee in me.
We'll start with a really, here we go. You're going to love this. This is going to kick it off, and this is exactly what is the nutritional value of a donut?
Well, to me, I was
talking
getting
about
stuck
that.
into this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Well, do you even want to know?
We're
Yeah.
talking about
Do you care?
good
Yeah.
sugars and bad sugars.
I want to know what's going on in your donuts.
Oh, what's in the donut?
This is good, you know?
It's sugar.
I think
There's sugar.
that's
There's sugar. There's butter.
Flour.
There's butter. There's flour.
There's
a bit of eggs, and then you're frying it in some oil, and you may syringe inserts and a little bit of.
Or vanilla slice donut or some lovely sugar-filled jam. It's not really jam. Probably got nothing to do with strawberries, and it's just all.
So we've got a little donut here. We're high in fat. We're high in carbohydrates. Probably a nominal amount of protein because those eggs are spread across multiple donuts.
Yeah, and there's probably like one egg to like 7 donuts.
But I'll throw it back to you. So why are we eating the donut? Are you eating the donut because it's good for your health? Or are you eating the donut because it's bloody tasty?
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
What was that
There's
flavour?
a lot of
that one
science
you said
going. Like
yesterday?
those
That
donuts
looks
have a
good.
lot of science in it. The glazing, everything is designed to make you eat that sucker.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's
good.
wonderful. So enjoy the donut. I say.
Enjoy the donut.
Just
That's
not
what
every
that's
day,
gonna be.
Timmy. Just not every day.
one donut a day.
Donut a day.
Keeps the doctor away.
One donut a day.
I think you're talking about apples, mate.
So I have one of them too.
It counteracts
So,
it.
so
Does his
tell
apple
me if
counteract his
I'm,
donut?
if I'm feeling a little bit like slumped in my energy in the
At 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Just
Am I
box
going to
it
reach for the donut, or are there any other things that you would
up. I
recommend?
usually have coffee and donut in the morning, and then fruit in the arvo.
Well, do you know what? Timmy actually touches on a point that we'll get to later in about sort of timing of eating. So having your donut in the morning as opposed to late at night is actually
better idea.
Is a better idea if you're going to have your donut.
Look, I had half my donut last night at 10 p.m. You know, that's okay.
Storing the energy for today.
Yes.
And look for someone like Timmy who trains 7 times a day.
I reckon it's blood flow.
6.
Nah,
Yeah.
varies.
Timmy can get away with a few more donuts than the average Joe.
And Joe.
Joe's well, look, Joey hasn't been training for the past few weeks, have you, Joey?
Joey. Isn't it just lovely?
Just told me about that.
I went somewhere yesterday and asked me if I wanted cold water. Where was it? Bunnings.
Bunnings.
Yep, I had coffee from Bunnings.
Any good? Did you go to the new
Look,
one
it
or old
wasn't
one?
too bad. Look, it did the job, and it wasn't shit.
I skipped one from Yellow Espresso and asked them to put cold in their little notes. And they put cold in them.
Well, that's really good.
It's good coffee. So it's good coffee.
How do they? Well, there you go.
So,
Here we go, Leech. BCAAs versus protein. Why, when, and how?
I love a good sciencey question. Thanks, Duds.
Loves it. Loves it.
So our branched chain amino acids are our essential amino acids. That means our body can't make them. So we need to actually take them in from food sources. So we've got our leucine, isoleucine, and valine are our 3 essential amino acids. And there are other essential amino acids, but the things that makes these ones different is that they're actually metabolized in the muscle, where the other ones are metabolized in the liver. There was some evidence to suggest that maybe, we might use them as fuel during exercise, but there hasn't been really strong evidence to support that. So particularly sort of leucine is your one. So when you're looking at your protein supplements or your BCAAs, you want to see that it's got the right amount of leucine.
What is the right
About
amount of leucine?
2 to 3 grams. So in terms of sort of the supplements type of things, so your branched chain amino acid supplements are going to have those 3, and they're the big ones. And they're going to be your proteins or your amino acids that encourage your muscle synthesis. So when you exercise, you're breaking down the muscle, and then you're rebuilding it back up.
Tear and repair.
And also taking, say, branched chain amino acids perhaps during exercise might minimise fatigue, but then you might get that same kind of benefit from any kind of carbohydrate ingestion as well.
What you're doing.
Protein. So different types of protein. We've got plant proteins and we've got animal proteins. So those essential amino acids that I was talking about that you have to get from your diet, you can only find in foods that have a high biological value. So your animal products, so your dairy, your eggs, and your meat, for example. But we've also got plant proteins, so our legumes, you know, and such, but they don't have all those essential amino acids. So if you have...
So what do vegans do when they need our protein?
Well, so you've got to mix and match your proteins. So you can get all your essential amino acids on a vegan diet, but you would have to say mix legumes with rice to get that complete amino acid profile. So if you look, a good example, it's actually a terrible example, but if you look at starving kids in Africa, no, but you know when you see them and they have
the pot bellies.
the pot bellies.
Yeah.
You know, so that is because they've got a protein energy malnutrition, because they go on to like a grain-based diet, they don't get those essential amino acids for growth, so then you get that's what.
Oh, so they just eat just grains, so they don't have that.
They don't have, yeah. So it's really important those foods that have that high biological value. So your milk, your dairies, and your eggs for kids in particular, for growing bodies. Like we can get away with it as adults, but for kids they can't. So they get stunted and have all sorts of issues if they don't get the protein.
Good. And when?
So when? Well, the typical Australian sort of diet would have their protein skewed towards the end of the day. So our main meal at the end in the evening would probably typically contain the most amount of protein. That's probably when you have your meat and so forth. Ideally, we want to start thinking about distributing the protein across the day, especially in relation to training, to get it in, so including it in your breakfast, in your lunch, and also in your dinner. You want to get it from your foods, obviously your plant foods, you've got your soys, you've got your tofus, you've got your legumes, you know, things like rice as well. But you've got your, like I said, your meat, your eggs, your dairy, and those sources.
Yeah.
So just trying to include quality protein sources throughout the day, rather than just, you know, having it mainly concentrated at one end of the day. And things like when around training, so your branched chain amino acid kind of supplements, and also your protein, your whey isolate supplements can be really useful, because when you're training, you may not feel like eating. So they're a convenient way to take in that extra protein as well.
Is there a certain period of time that you should have them afterwards?
So ideally, you know, in terms of before, during, or after, you know, and I guess strength-based exercises, it really doesn't matter so long as you get it in. But ideally, up to about, you've got to 1 hour afterwards. Yeah, would be ideal. So
there we go.
But
all those things we learn.
and I just want to point, if you are vegan, that the recent research is showing that, say, if you've got a soy-based protein, versus your whey, or your dairy-based protein, that you're getting similar gains in muscle.
Yeah,
So that's a more recent research in that area. So yeah, good news if you're vegan.
There you go.
You
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I will. Steak. Sorry, vegans.
Sorry.
So it's not sauce.
Still sauce.
Yeah, and actually,
Tenders from country roads.
Yeah.
and when you're using those little muscle groups, so if you're doing all that, you know, the strict workout we're doing, so a lot of pull-ups,
Yeah.
presses, you may have the high protein needs on those days in which you are utilising a lot of those more smaller supporting muscles as well. Muscle groups.
Didn't know that.
There you go.
Yeah, and older people need to consider their protein intakes as well.
Yeah.
And there's sort of, you know, there's been some calls to revise actually the recommendations around protein intakes, and for older people. You know.
It's the same here.
Yeah, because you want to be able to maintain your muscle mass as you age.
Yes, and it eats away more once you get older, doesn't it?
So protein and CrossFit, perfect for the aging body.
And coffee.
And coffee. Always.
Alright, next one. Hang on. Best way to lose weight and maintain the weight loss versus quick weight loss.
Well, that's like $1 million question, and if we had the answer to that one, then I'd be making a fortune.
I feel like that's just our response, Leech, of maybe the fad diets aren't really going to help you all that much. Just eat food, do exercise.
Look, you know, so my answer to this is that every diet works.
While
in the
you're
short
on the
term.
diet.
In the short term. And most people fail on that diet in the long term because that diet's not sustainable. And often it's not sustainable because it's asking you to eliminate whole food groups. It's really restrictive in the approach, particularly if it's a fad diet. Yes, you lose weight. Yes, you'll feel great because you're probably eating more fruits and vegetables at the same time. You're actually eating better. You're probably starting to exercise more. But I guess if it's not a diet that is sustainable for you to maintain, particularly during times of work stress and things, you know, when the shit hits the fan and the wheels fall off, and you know, we just go back to our old patterns of being. So you've got to remember, patterns of behaviour are pretty firmly ingrained, and so when we just suddenly switch to a particular diet, we've got a diet plan, and then I've done this myself. You go, you get a book, you've got ingredients, you've got to, you know, start buying. It's all completely
It's too
new.
much.
So that's all fine when you're really motivated, but you've got to learn, try new skills, find old foods, cook new things, and then tell yourself you like it.
You don't make friends with
Force
salad.
yourself to like it. Yeah.
You don't suspend this.
So in terms of the best way for weight loss, you know, I prefer to think about it in terms of focusing on health. So I think the focus on weight is a really poor motivator as well for people in the long term. And it's usually focusing on something that's quite superficial in terms of how you look. Because how you look doesn't actually dictate how healthy you are on the inside.
No. That's what gets me when people say about weight, because they'll say weight as in what's on the scales, and it's like, actually you can weigh the exact same and look the polar opposite of that, because 2.5 kilos of fat is that much, and 2.5 kilos of muscle is that.
So the ways in which you're losing weight, you want to try to create a calorie deficit of some sort, but you don't want a calorie deficit that's going to leave you hanging out for that block of chocolate, or mean that you're going to be binging on a Friday, or you know, mean that you're a social pain in the ass because you go into a function and you're just sitting there depressed looking at the food.
Have the spring roll, Leech. Have the spring roll. Wait for it to cool and have the spring roll.
So you really need to consider it as part of your broader lifestyle. So, you know, what's your work involved? How much stress? How often are you sitting as well? Because we're so sedentary. So even though you might go and do your CrossFit training or do other sort of training, you're spending the bulk of your day sitting. And,
horrendous.
you know, you might be eating more than actually your energy needs require. So you can't, I guess, that physical activity is not going to compensate for being sedentary throughout the day. So finding ways to integrate how you're going to move throughout the day is really important. And finding ways in which, you know, you can examine your diet and find, you know, where's it going wrong? Where are the pitfalls of the diet? So you actually really need to have a good hard look at yourself. and find areas, find those opportunities for improvement, I think, and find things that are going to actually suit your personal preference in terms of taste, because you're actually going to want to eat it, okay? If you hate broccoli, for example, then all of a sudden I'm saying you need to add all this broccoli into your, you know, so some small changes over time that are going to be sustainable. But also you need to start looking at the systems around you. So if, you know, it's all very easy to say, oh, you know, I'm going to lose weight and I'm motivated, but if the systems that you're operating in, so your family, in terms of your workplace, if they're not set up to support you, it's going to be really hard. So it's going to work when you're motivated. So if you're always going to work and the biscuits are always there and the donuts are coming out and it's fun fight and you've got to say no, no, no every time. So, you know, I guess trying to change some of the things that are happening in your environment that are going to enable you to eat better. And that might be family members bringing home the KFC on a Friday night. So all of those things that go on that are going to actually support you to make good choices and what you keep in the house as well. So, you know, you want to make good choices the easy choice. So if you have your environment set up in a way that can help you make good choices, that's going to be a lot easier. Yeah. So that's it. So there's no hard and fast way to lose weight. Yeah. Unless you only want to keep it, you know, keep that weight loss for about 6 months.
Yeah. Oh, this is pretty much the same thing. No, I did laugh at this question.
People got to enjoy food.
It's food. It's food.
We've got to enjoy it.
It's the best.
Shouldn't be a source of stress.
No, I'm about to order some eggs.
Oh yes,
Eggs. This is the same thing, but I just thought it was very funny. fat loss and muscle gain, can you please tell me what to eat, when to eat it? Please move in with me. Make sure I eat it and slap anything else I try to eat out of my hand. Yeah. So Leechy, when are you going on a road trip living at everyone's house? we could hire you. We could pimp you out. Pimp Leechy out.
You know,
Yes.
my pantry.
I may work with a bit
Chocolate
of
finger
nutrition.
biscuits.
But look, I'm
You
just...
love a pepperoni lovers as much as the next, don't you, Leech?
Oh, you gotta get extra cheese too, don't you?
She Snapchatted me. What was that donut yesterday?
Oh, no, that was a disappointment.
It looked
wasn't-
good.
It looked good, but it wasn't fresh. It had been... Your donuts have got to be fresh.
Yeah,
No,
they're
there's
gonna be
nothing
fresh.
worse than a crusty donut.
All this talk about food and...
That's disappointing.
No, I don't really have a sweet tooth, but that donut
It looked
experience,
good.
you know, I know it's got this kind of custody insert for that donut, but no,
A custody. What would you do with a custody insert, Timmy?
Yeah.
Flashlight donut. Why are we like this?
your donuts have to be fresh.
You've got to have a fresh custody insert. Oh my lord. Alright, let's get serious.
No.
Alright, Leechy. Intermittent fasting. Thoughts?
Intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I love this kind of area of research.
Speaking
Timmy,
of
you're
intermittent
doing-
fasting, can
I'm
I just
doing
go
that
on
at
to
the
speak?
You're intermittent fasting,
Yeah.
aren't you? Yeah. Are you doing the Josh Bridges style?
16-8. Yeah, that's. I think he does that, doesn't he?
Yeah. So you've got an 8-hour window
Mine's more
of
like
where you're having your meals?
15-9.
So when do you eat from?
Usually I'll start around 12:30 or 1ish and finish at like 8:30.
Yeah.
People would die.
How long have you been doing it?
5 weeks now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So body's feeling good.
So I just feel like,
Do
look,
you find you're less hungry?
I was super hungry like first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Super hungry in the mornings,
Yep.
especially after working out. It goes away after about 2 or 3 weeks. So
is that
Yeah.
because it shrinks your stomach or what is that?
Look, they don't really understand. So the evidence in this area is really new, but there's does appear to be benefits from intermittent fasting. So, I think people have seen the books and stuff about 5-2, etc. Now, intermittent fasting doesn't mean you have to have 2 days a week where you're fasting. Now, that's pretty hard to sustain in the long term. So what Timmy's doing is he's going, well, I'm actually going to extend that overnight fast.
Because we fast anyway.
Yeah, so this is about restricting the
like breakfast
time.
is breaking your
This is
fast.
about restricting the time that you're eating within a specific window during the day. Benefits are probably going to be, well, if you're doing that, you're not then going to be sneaking those biscuits and chocolate after 8 o'clock.
and that's the biggest thing I've
Yeah.
noticed. I've been eating
Yeah.
crap at night time.
So the thing with intermittent fasting is that yes, you will get results, but that's probably in the same vein that you'll get results on any diet, specifically on a 5-2. So you're going to start eating more fruit and vegetables. You're going to be in a calorie deficit, etc. So you're going to lose weight. The problem with the 5-2, you're probably not going to be able to maintain that. Some might, but they're the exception to the rule. But having this restricted time feeding window seems to be far more manageable for people, and particularly this 8-hour window of eating. So that might be from, I don't know, what's 8 hours?
Well, you're 12:30 to...
Yeah,
8:30.
to 8:30. Yeah, that's an example. I would probably recommend starting earlier and maybe finishing earlier,
Yep.
potentially.
But then you've got to be able to sustain the early finish, don't you?
You've got to be able to start, but so it's got to work in with whatever your circumstances is. So there's been some, and they've compared the 8-week time feeding schedule to 8 hour to 10 hour. And both groups maintained, they didn't lose weight, they didn't gain weight either, which is always good. But the 8-hour window had some improved blood markers in terms of insulin and things like that. And also reported this better appetite control. They were less hungry as well. But we don't sort of know in terms of long term, so we haven't generated any long term evidence. But in terms of intermittent fasting, the key fasting for that overnight period is that time when our body's meant to be sleeping is a really crucial time to be fasting anyway. So we really want to discourage having
A chocolate finger biscuit at 3 a.m.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah. So Timmy, when you talk about having that donut in the morning, our body's ability to respond to high carbohydrate food like that's sort of fairly nutritionally poor, probably got a reason earlier on, so our body can metabolize that better.
Yeah.
But our sort of responses to food as the day goes on, particularly into the night, you'll see sort of higher sort of insulin responses, etc., as you're going into the night. And during that time where we're actually meant to be asleep. So
what happens with intermittent fasting if you are doing it like as an athlete or something, and you usually say if you were Timmy and you did it from 12:30 to 8:30, and you had an event in the morning that you hadn't eaten, like because you're used to it, is it alright? Or because you're, like if you had to run a half marathon?
Yeah, it would depend on the event. So CrossFit in itself,
what about like
events are so short that it's probably
what about long distance
longer
cardio,
events where if you're doing a marathon and you're going to be limited, you need your muscle glycogen, etc. You're going to want to be able to top that up. But yeah, look, it's I guess trained athletes will actually go through different periodizations where they'll do some restricted time. So they want to be able to maximise their ability to utilise and take on different fuel sources. So they want to maximise how they use fats and how they use carbohydrates. So they'll actually train their bodies in ways to utilise different fuels more efficiently. I don't know how your body would respond just being on that routine and then changing it. Like I don't actually know the answer to that. But if you're doing those events, you definitely want to try and get in pre-race kind of meals.
I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
Like, what if people are doing that?
So like a mixed carbohydrate type meal, at least a couple of hours before your event starts.
Do you get hungry if you train at 6 in the morning?
I used to. The first couple of weeks I did.
Yeah.
But no, not so much anymore.
It's 7. It's like 5-6 hours before you eat after training.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So how does that work in terms of his protein then? If he hasn't eaten
So I think the trick for athletes, and it depends on how much you're training and what your energy requirements are. When we start restricting the time, it's about how do you get enough food that's throughout that time period. So ensuring that you're actually going to still meet your energy requirements, depending on what phase you're in. So athletes will go through different phases where they're maybe trying to gain muscle, for example. So they'll need higher energy, but then as they're coming into competition, they'll be wanting to lean down as they're going, into that sort of phase. So there's a lot of science that goes into athletes' diets, and usually they'll have a dietitian that actually works with them and supports them as well. But so as long as you're getting your protein distribution, throughout that window, and you're still eating your 3 meals within that.
I'll kick off.
Oh, there's scones. There's scones.
I will be sconing that up.
Do you like scones?
Not too big.
I think it's got a wide
No, better have jam and cream.
So good up.
See, I was just going to have eggs on toast. See, now there you go, Leech. There's a core nutrition. I was going to have eggs on toast because I love scrambled eggs on toast, but they've just brought out scones. So I'll be having scones, jam and cream for breakfast today. Well, that's dairy, a bit of sugar, and some carbohydrates, isn't that? That's alright, isn't it? Come on, Leech, justify me from a scone breakfast.
It's a whole grain scone topped with some Greek yogurt and
It's a point of having a scone.
Starch carbs for life.
It's a point of having it.
Starch carbs for life. Alright,
does sound amazing. I do love a good scone, especially if they're nice and light. And
Look at them. They look amazing.
But I'm not out.
Do you guys want another coffee?
I'm gonna have a scone. I'll come up.
No.
Do we want to order break?
Maybe.
Okay. with my legs.
Yeah, I'm nice in the days.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
Timmy,
good to
did
sleep
you get
in the
bloods done?
No, not yet. I've been to the doctors in a few years now, so that's probably the first step.
So do you watch the Josh Bridges thing on YouTube?
Yeah, it's only like a 15-minute video. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
I did
talking
watch
about
that.
his experience. So
Yeah.
he reckons that his testosterone
Oh,
levels.
they're
Yeah,
fresh.
it's on. Oh.
But I would be interested because he's going to keep getting the tests.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see whether that's maintained or whether that returns to kind of the baseline value. Because
Yeah, I probably should go send it off. You're a doctor.
you need a
aren't you?
before and after. Yeah, I'll just take your bloods.
Yeah. You
I'll
can take your bloods,
bloods.
good chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finna, do you just want a date one or a normal one?
Oh, normal one.
Yeah, well, I thought that, but I just wanted to check because some people are like, oh, it's good.
Yeah. No, normal one.
Do you want a coffee there?
Oh yeah, I'll go for
Yeah,
one.
you can have a jam.
Yeah.
Nah.
You good?
Not yet.
Ah.
Leech, do you want a scone?
No.
You're allowed. Do you want boogie eggs? Do you want Abby eggs?
Abby eggs. Oh look, I'm
Oh,
it's too early for me to eat.
What do you mean? Do you have a routine?
No, it's just my general feelings of eating.
oh my god, I could eat all day. Oh, there's little apple pies.
Oh, good you.
Look at them, little footballs.
Can I always get another
Mommy.
Yeah, I don't actually because I train at this time. I'm normally not eating. My body doesn't feel like eating until about 8.
Who's gonna eat some fucking finger biscuit?
You cheap diet.
They're 1.95 a pack. But that's one serve. Like one pack's one serve.
Yeah, but if you can do a meal for under $2, that's a cheap meal.
meal for oh.
You know what's even better? A loaf of bread.
Things are just
Oh, yeah.
A loaf of bread.
That's solid.
Oh god, I'm excited now for treat.
Oh, do you put your chocolate
Like I was excited.
cookies and
I was
bread?
excited about eggs, now I'm excited about
Do you lunch it?
scone.
Do you put your chocolate fingers in bread?
No.
And touch.
No, I don't do that.
Oh, I just thought you said chocolate fingers and bread.
No, I'm very much, I don't like to mix my savoury and my sweet. I can't have Nutella on toast. But I love toast, and I could eat a whole tub of Nutella
I
by
love
itself.
jam on toast.
I do love jam on toast.
Big fan of jam at the moment.
But I don't like lumpy jam.
Yeah, I like lumpy jam.
No.
I like
It's
it,
when
yeah.
it comes out and you get a big little strawberry lump.
That
goes
causes
in
me
there.
stress.
It's amazing.
Oh, it goes in the
That
That's what it's
causes
like.
me stress.
That's what the flavour.
No, that's like when you have yogurt with lumps in it. It's like when you're eating like,
Yeah.
what is it that I'm eating?
I think we can ascertain that your eating habits haven't progressed beyond that of an 8-year-old.
Probably not. No, I wouldn't have thought so. I love a bit of Vegemite toast and a chopping finger biscuit.
How good is
And a
Vegemite
Milo.
toast? How good is
That's
Vegemite toast when you're unwell? That is just a go-to.
Yeah.
Oh, I
That
love
is
it.
good.
It is. When
Yeah,
you're
yeah, Peanut
unwell.
butter and jam lately. Ooh, same. Thank you, Rich. If you're watching.
If you're watching,
Yeah.
we're training.
How good is Vegemite toast paired with a glass of milk?
Plum or cherry?
Isn't that just gold?
What's this?
Vegemite toast and a glass of milk
Oh, yeah.
All that.
combination.
I'm a big fan of milk.
That's like a classic Aussie combination.
How much milk do you drink a day?
Cherry.
Well, now that I don't drink, how much milk do I drink? That's a good question, Timmy. I don't actually drink that much milk. Actually, no, I'm drinking more because I'm getting a nippies in.
Yeah. How good the nippies?
There you go, nutritional values of the nippies.
Ooh.
They're good, aren't they?
So that's because I'm fundamentally lazy, like a lot of people. So I used to drink lattes.
Didn't we all?
So
Didn't we all?
Sorry?
Cherry or plum jam?
Yeah.
Cherry?
Yeah.
So- So
Anything.
I will have milk in the morning. So I'm a time poor mum, and so my food choices are dictated a lot by time. And I'll just have some wheat bix with some oats.
Wheat bix and oats.
Yeah,
At the same time?
I go 2 wheat
In
bix
together.
in together.
I might like oats better if I put wheat bix in there.
So plenty of
Yeah,
my
I
whole
like my
grains.
porridge.
Porridge is good, but I don't have time to cook
I don't
porridge.
like porridge.
Takes 2
It
minutes.
creeps me out. The texture creeps me
Throw it in the
out.
microwave. 2 minutes. Happy days.
I just can't feel.
And I probably have about 200 mils of milk probably in there. I don't measure it out, so.
Yeah.
Do you have milk or water with your wheat bix?
Oh, milk.
Yeah, I know. So, no, I thought I was the
What kind of
same.
question is that?
No, some people
Is that
have
a real question?
people have water with their
No,
wheat
everyone
bix.
has
They
water.
do. They
Just
do.
water.
They do.
Usually they're about 7 months old.
Even like, it's weird. It's weird, isn't it? People do, because people have asked me before, and I'm like, what? Milk? Of course. What else are you going to
They're
put in
7
it?
months old. You're introducing the foods. You're putting the good cold water in with
Yeah.
the wheat bix.
So
You're
that's
making
right,
that nice, tasty
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Their first
Spoon
meal.
feeding that. Oh no.
So if I was,
It's just
if I was at home, my cream would be up to here.
Yeah.
And if I was to improve my breakfast, Timmy, and I want to add a little bit more protein, I think maybe Greek yogurt with some Greek yogurt and some fruit and
If I was
berries.
Greek yogurt,
Would you guys
Adding
mind?
Yeah.
some fruit and berries, but look, other things, having eggs in the morning, some sort of other sort of vegetables.
I was going to have eggs.
Yeah.
What happened?
This.
But that takes time, Timmy. I don't have time.
You know, I've been on the bacon and egg muffins in the
Yeah.
morning. I make myself a nice little bacon and egg muffin.
You've been doing that for a little bit. haven't
I
you?
do. I love a bacon and egg muffin.
And at the moment, I've been having a little bit of chalky milk.
Yeah.
So obviously, our chocolate milk has got added sugars in it, which we don't really want to encourage. But I just find having full cream milk or any type of milk is a good way. It provides me with a bit of satiety.
Yeah.
So getting that from my yogurt and also my cheeses. So I wouldn't really.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cheese.
And the recommendations just recently released. I'm not sure whether you guys have seen in the media, but you know the recommendations around dairy and eggs has sort of changed. I would say not to be excessively drinking milk, but to try and get in things like your yogurt and your cheese. So even though they're all classed as dairy, they're quite different. So we got our cheese. It's got proposed health benefits, particularly because of that sort of food matrix that's in. Even though cheese is high in salt, there's a lot of other benefits that come with having cheese. The French love cheese, they all pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's raining.
But then you've got yogurt, which is also your fermented, you know, you've got the fermentation that comes with the yogurt.
Thank you.
Again, different health benefits. So, you know, rather than just relying on milk, Timmy, I would encourage you to also include cheese and a good quality yogurt. So try to stay clear of the added sugars. I like full cream as a choice because it just helps me feel fuller for longer. I find it generally more satisfying.
No, but if you can't drink it, it's
Yeah.
only give it.
You can't drink. Just push through the pain.
Mate, if I drink full cream milk, I'll be out here, and I'm just like, oh,
So do you reckon, I don't know, a litre a day is the safe amount? Milk?
of chocolate milk.
Of just white milk.
You do chocolate milk though.
Yeah, I only have one chocolate milk a day though. One nippies a day.
I feel like it's more than that.
There were
It might be more
there
than
were
that
some
sometimes.
studies from memory. There were some studies linking, you know, excess sort of milk consumption with prostate cancer in men. Like I
You
said,
need to be able to piss
Sorry,
when
the
you're
work
awake.
is here, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, check it out.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What if you can't drink? What if you can't have dairy? What's a good substitute?
Dairy substitutes.
oh,
Bundy.
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 Been told lots of different things about don't have too much soy, don't do this,
well, soy.
do that.
So I just reviewed a paper looking at soy intakes and sort of coronary heart disease. So soy has something called isoflavones in it, which may be beneficial for heart health. Soy is probably a good substitute, but you would want to have something that has the calcium fortification when you're looking for your substitute. A lot of the almond milks are probably pretty poor nutritionally, even though I think people prefer it as a point of taste
It's pretty hard.
as their
to make,
substitute.
honestly.
We sell more almond milk than we do soy.
Yeah.
Shit.
And I think that definitely comes down to taste. But if you're cutting out whole food groups such as dairy, you do need to think about
Milk is
sources
heaps of
of
nipples.
calcium and
So I don't have dairy, and my daughters can't have dairy.
yeah.
But we're looking at egg substitute.
Yeah.
But we were told not to give her too much soy
By
by a nutritionist.
a nutritionist or a nutritionist?
Not like your kind of nutritionist.
Not a doctor.
Not a doctor.
Was it a doctor?
Yeah. She just said don't drink too much soy. And I was like, what's the only thing she'll drink?
But how much is too much? What does she mean is too much?
Yeah.
Like,
And that's probably not based on. Look, I think with anything, when we say too much, that like just going crazy on
like you're
soy.
not putting bath in it.
No.
Yeah, but yeah.
Quick patches to bathe in milk.
I'd say soy is generally considered safe.
Yeah.
So go for it.
Hi, Jane. Hi, how are you?
But it's challenging when you cut out whole food groups. How then do you make that up with other foods? It's pretty challenging.
There's some dairy.
That's where looking at sort of fortified foods.
Yeah.
And the thing with dairy, it's really convenient and it's easy, and it's an easy way to get your calcium requirements. And there's a whole lot of other nutrients that come with the dairy as well. Cream excluded, butter excluded.
Ooh, this question. Butter or margarine? Butter. You gotta go butter.
Yeah, well,
What's with the margin cancer thing?
so
I saw it on something.
something. I haven't specifically looked at that, but I guess with this rise in coronary heart disease that was sort of happening, there was, and with sort of some clinical evidence that showed that when we take in particular types of fat, being saturated fats, that it was associated with high cholesterol, for example, and particularly that cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol that we take, or the bad cholesterol. But then science, like everything, evolves over the years. So what came with that was like a bit of an anti-fat kind of push. So we got this low-fat products, we've shifted towards margarine, away from things like butter, and then the food industry gets on board and creating these low-fat products. But then to make them taste good, they put in higher amounts of sugar. And and as the science evolved, we've learned that fat is just one macronutrient, and fat occurs in lots of different foods, and there's lots of different types of fats, including saturated fats. So the saturated fat in dairy is different to the saturated fat in, say, nuts. And what we know now is that saturated fat in, say, dairy and chocolate is not having the bad effects on the heart health. But you really want to avoid things like, fats in sort of baked goods and all those commercially baked products. Potentially, So I guess when we're focusing, so when we're looking at our diet, we don't want to focus on particular macronutrients because the focus on that doesn't really give you an indication of the quality of the food source. So it's going to depend on what food it's in, what else you're eating as well. Butter versus margarine. So with that also became this rise in sort of, I guess, vegetable-based margarines. But then vegetable oil is a liquid. Saturated fat, so like the visible fat on your meat, is a solid. So in order to make that margarine, like, I guess, a more solid form, they did what was called partial hydrogenation of that oil to make it more solid. And then you got what calls your trans fats. And then with this introduction of trans fats into the food supply, that was actually far worse. So this is like happening, the processing part of it, the partial hydrogenation, the trans fats. There is definitely very conclusive evidence that trans fat is no good for you. You're better off having the saturated fat, in my opinion. So then, now that that's pretty, in Australia, that's strongly regulated. You shouldn't find much trans fat.
That's been good though.
Yeah. America was a bit slower to follow in that regard, so you won't, those margarines that you get now, really shouldn't. Although it'd be interesting to go and actually examine the foods products because they need to be tested in that regard. There is still some small amounts of trans fats in foods. So if you're having a highly processed diet, there is a chance that over the course of the day, particularly with pastry and baked goods that you're buying in supermarkets off the shelf, but that's in the supermarket, highly processed food. You may actually be getting trans fats in your diet, and so it's something that still needs to be looked at. I personally go for butter, but it's pretty neutral in terms of the evidence on health. But then there's probably some olive oil margarines, and there's definitely margarines that lower cholesterol and that have been shown to do that. So I guess it will depend on your preference.
Good to go. Good pick up, Hannah.
We're back.
So we're going to go. Do we have to go back to the absolute
Take
worst
two.
food?
Nah, I think we're right. What are good midnight snack food options?
I don't.
Chocolate finger biscuits.
Glass of water.
Let
Kit
me
Kats.
have like one.
Yeah, glass of water. There's no good midnight snack food options.
Let's go sleep.
If you absolutely have to eat, I would choose something that is a good sort of protein source.
Chicken tenders with country roast.
No, really, and
12
look,
o'clock at night.
so, and this is sort of relevant to some people watching this, is that people that do shift work have a really tough time.
Yeah.
Especially if you're on a rotating sort of shift schedule, and you're working the night, and there's this sense, and we've all done it. You have this tendency to want to eat.
Yep.
You want to eat. You need a high sugar, high fat fix. But that's possibly the worst time that you could actually eat that food. So, if you are doing some kind of a shift work approach, making sure that you try and keep a regular meal schedule and have a good, quality meal at the start of your shift. So at the normal time you'll eat dinner, and aiming to fast over that period. Okay, and if you have to snack, having a small snack, but having a good quality source of protein, like maybe say some yogurt or something, a little bit of fruit as well, but trying to fast as long as you can over that night period.
But what happens then if they sleep? Because then they're fasting again when they're sleeping, like during the day.
Yeah, so
Like you can't turn. Can you not just flip it around and turn your day into night? Not. Does that make? Do you know what I mean?
I think that's if you are regularly doing that. I don't actually know the answer to that, but
Yeah.
I think
I
we
just
are.
find it interesting.
We are designed in terms of our circadian rhythms to sleep during that. We're not nocturnal creatures.
Yeah.
It's different for say rats, for example.
So rats can have a donut at 3 a.m. and they're okay.
So
We're
the
missing out.
diet's
We're missing out.
The animal evidence about when they're eating during their normal sleeping period during the daytime, that has really bad effects on their health. So for even mice as well. So if you are a regular night shift person and sleeping during the day, you can still probably get around it by having a meal when you get home. So having that breakfast when you get home
Oh yeah.
Yep.
and going to sleep, and then
Yeah. So you just have like your tea at tea time, but it's sort of your breakfast, and then your breakfast at tea time, but that's your tea.
So you got that start and finish of your shift.
That's
But
quite interesting.
I think again it's just really challenging for people to then, especially because most people are not just doing that same.
If I worked night shift, I'd be Gilbert Grape's mum.
No.
You would have
That is
to take the window out of our home and crane me out of the house to get to work.
Yeah.
We'd have to
I
rebuild.
don't know if you'll feel the grapes mum.
I think it'd get to a point I just couldn't.
But again, it comes back to the workplace and how that supports you. So, what foods are other people bringing and eating? What's the culture of that workplace? They're actually doing a study in Ballarat. So, Ballarat Health Services at the base hospital.
That's where I
looking
work.
at shift workers.
Oh, that's where you work too?
And there's, yeah. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Night shift or
Is a big renovation job.
No. Snack or not to snack? If so, what foods are ideal?
What's your go-to snack?
Yeah, well,
No.
Everyone's got a
It's
go-to.
good.
Yeah.
So
Nippies
snacks
is
are
a
not a
good
snack.
snack.
It's a
Go
food
for a
jar.
Nippies.
You don't need-
Sponsor him already.
Hashtag niggas.
Hashtag Nippies.
I do snack. We don't need to snack. So not, if we're having our regular meals, for example, you know, snacking
I
is
love
necessary.
cheeky snacks.
And then particularly if you're trying to, you know, lose some weight, you know, looking at your snacks can be actually really helpful. So trying to extend the times a little bit between meals. But then you also need to consider, well, you know, if I extend for too long, am I then going to overeat at that next meal and then just want to choose poorer options
Yeah.
as well? So there's a lot to kind of consider, but definitely grazing throughout the day is only going to be more likely to encourage you to overeat and overconsume. Snacks that I would typically go for, I would choose things that are nutritionally quite high and also provide a good satiety value, so nuts, so raw nuts.
Snack on them nuts.
Dry roast, and you know what, dry roasted nuts give a really good crunch. So dry roasted almonds.
I just feel like that's on an angle.
Nuts.
So my morning sort of snacks will include a piece of fruit.
Yeah.
I'll have some nuts there that I can snack on.
She's gonna snack on some nuts.
That I can.
I thought Dino went to work during snack time.
And one way is I love eggs. So
It is on a ball substance. Egg, you do love a hard-boiled egg, don't you? I love a hard-boiled egg. I love a hard-boiled egg.
I think
You know what I hate?
being organised with your snacks is very helpful.
Oh, I hate almonds. They make me angry. Like, I hate them.
Get angry at almonds.
They piss me off.
Can you raised by almonds?
Literally, it's like going out to that tree out there, you just
Yeah.
grab a bit of apple fruit, oh great.
Would you rather an almond or a banana?
You know what?
What?
You know how much I hate bananas and they're shifty?
No idea.
I hate them.
You hate bananas?
They creep me out. Because what is going on there? Like, it's mushy, but then it's got hairy bits, and then it's got this weird skin, and it's all too much.
You don't eat the skin.
It's too much.
What
I
happens?
can't deal
What
with
happens
it.
if you not like
I
bananas?
don't actually know. No, well, Mum reckons it's because she just ate them flat out when she was pregnant. Maybe she desensitized it. I hate them. But, oh, you know what? I'd choose a banana
Over an
almond. That's
Yeah.
how much I hate them.
Joe, how do we like our banana? Do you like it?
I love banana breads. There you go. That's how I love banana. It is a nutritional value for it. I just don't think creepy.
Yeah. I'll put bananas in my fridge.
Yeah, in shapes.
Shapes?
Shapes.
Oh, shapes.
Shake.
Shapes.
Shapes.
No,
I do
shapes.
like a banana on a pancake.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like the pancake with the cream and the maple syrup. Little combo.
Yeah.
Banana's good.
You know, I like bananas.
How ripe do you like your banana?
Just not green. They're good. If they're not green, you can
Sometimes you can cream.
yeah, and they're real like sort of tough and cherry.
They're like hairy stuff.
So with bananas, the greener they are, the sort of the higher the starch content, and as they ripen, the sugar content increases.
Good sugars.
But then, I don't know, then it can get overripe and then it's just,
How do you make banana bread?
Yeah. So that's obviously when I like it, when it's full of sugar.
Have you ever frozen a banana and ever frozen it yet?
Yep.
Plenty of different ways to treat it. Yeah, so nuts are good. I
Snack on
guess
nuts.
So,
good
nuts are
sources of polyunsaturated fats.
Polyunsaturated.
You know, the satiety value from snacks, you know, they're generally really filling, you don't have to eat a lot, so you don't want to snack a whole bag of the nut, you know, because they are fairly energy dense. But fruit, nuts, yogurt, hard-boiled eggs I like to have ready to go. Hard-boiled egg snacks.
Well,
ideally,
Wagon wheels. Well, what is the biscuit content in there? Is that like, is it a grainy biscuit?
the composition of the wagon wheel is very scientific to make you enjoy it and want to eat more.
I do enjoy it.
You guys remember the ads, the old wagon wheel ads? It's the wagon wheel. Oh mate, you've got to get that.
You have to put it up.
Wait, you've got it.
Milky bar.
It's like compares wagon
Oh,
wheel.
yeah. Milky bar.
Milky bar.
Maybe it was at 9.
Right, see ya. Cheers.
The wagon.
So essentially, just snack on a bag of nuts.
No, handful of nuts.
A handful of
A
nuts.
handful of nuts.
With some fruit.
Can you eat too much fruit though?
It's actually really dry.
Too much fruit. Oh well,
Someone, I don't know where.
you only really need 2 serves of fruit a day. So you
No,
know,
an apple.
a cup of strawberries or something, and a medium-sized apple. Yeah. But
So you can't eat too much fruit.
well, that's in terms of the recommendation. In terms of I wouldn't say that. Well, like anything, you have too much of anything, but you want to be able to have enough space in your diet to eat other things that are going to be beneficial. So a lot of those dietary guidelines are framed around, well, what are your nutrient requirements and how we're going to meet those in the context of the whole diet. So it's very actually hard to fit everything in that you've got to eat during the whole day. But piece of fruit, it's got your, compared to fruit juice, so when you process it, you're taking away a lot of the fibre and a lot of what's called the phytonutrients, so those sort of antioxidants and the bioactives that are in there. So even in your jams, you're basically removing all that good stuff. So choose the whole fruit and eat the fruit, it's good for you. Yeah.
What about like dried fruits and things like that? When people do them in the hydrators and stuff.
Yeah. I guess dried fruit that you buy in packets because
No,
it's got
what
the,
if you did it yourself in a hydrator?
I think a hydrator is probably fine. It's the preservatives that get added
Yeah, that's what I was
that you need to be mindful of. I wouldn't, and remembering it's more concentrated form of energy. So eating, rather than if you've got your dried apricots, you're going to eat 10 dried apricots, whereas if you're going to eat the whole fruit, you're probably going to have 1 or 2. So again, it's concentrated form of energy. And you've got the preservatives that come with it that you want to probably avoid.
How many meals per day should we be eating as a guideline?
Oh, sorry.
3 is good because 3 means that each meal is going to be an opportunity to be able to meet your sort of food intake requirements, to get enough sort of fruit and veg in throughout the day, but again regular meals. So in terms of your circadian rhythms and the timing of eating, regular meals are going to be the best ways to kind of maintain your weight as well and to meet your nutritional requirements.
Vitamins and supplements, yes or no?
Unnecessary for most people.
If you
So
Yeah.
yeah. But we all love the idea of the supplement. I mean, I guess people who consume vitamins and supplements usually end up being the worried well. So they're actually just wasting their money because their food intake is enough, to meet all of their needs. So a lot of the supplement purchases are necessary. If you are deficient in a particular nutrient, supplements can be beneficial. But if you're meeting your nutrient requirements through diet, then you're actually just creating expensive urine. You just get out of that.
Pissing it out.
You're creating expensive urine, particularly for things like B vitamins, for example, which, there's plenty of food sources. A lot of, we're probably not going to be deficient in a lot of the B vitamins. You're adding, vitamin C supplements. Pretty easy to get your vitamin C intake each day if you're having enough sort of fruits, vegetables.
Yeah.
So So supplements are unnecessary for the most part, and are not going to provide any additional benefit. It depends. There are some supplements that may be helpful in terms of training, so that are backed up by some evidence. But a lot of the time when you go in and you've got all those different supplements and they say they do things, often there's very little scientific evidence to support that. And even if there is scientific evidence that gets referred to, it's usually a poor quality study design as well. So yes,
And then
there's
you read the
evidence.
back and you've got to take 17 capsules a day.
Yeah, so a really good example actually is those, omega-3s. So when the fish oil capsules. So when all the research came out, it's like, oh wow, fish oil,
What do you do?
It's amazing for, your heart health and all of those sort of things. But now, as more and more studies, good quality studies come out, it actually shows, well, actually you're probably wasting your money, and your benefit you're going to get is actually from eating the fish.
What if you don't eat fish?
Yeah, I don't
Like
eat
if
fish.
you eat no
Yeah.
seafood at all.
Oh no, look, I do. I eat squid.
Oh, calamari.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the exception.
That's the exception to the
Yeah.
rule, isn't it? When you don't eat fish, that's
Yeah.
the exception to the rule. Yeah.
I guess
Alright.
supplements don't replace a good diet.
All my
Yeah.
friends have squid.
Look, I think in terms of like fish oil, there may be still some benefit for things like rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah, joint health.
But for managing rheumatoid, not osteo.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It is lovely.
But yeah, you need to be able to, and I think people go, okay, so they find one food and there's a particular ingredient food that's supposed to be beneficial.
I'm out cutting
The reality is that in those studies, it's really high amounts of that. So, so for example, resveratrol in wine being an antioxidant, like the amount of wine that you would have to drink to get the amount that's supposed to have a benefit
Yeah.
is actually quite ridiculous a lot of the time. So again, the
Constantly
focus.
paralytic. Well, but I've got
You
heaps of
you
antioxidants.
wouldn't encourage people to drink a whole lot of alcohol, right?
Just
So
to get some
it's-
antioxidants.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to note that high antioxidant supplements, especially if so cancer guidelines are pretty strict around that, to say that there's actually a detrimental effect a lot of the time for having supplements, particular antioxidants, which may help progress cancers and make things worse as well. And also people who are on medications, they need to consider medications. So there are some supplements that may be contraindicated
Yeah.
depending on what, so you need to sort of think about supplements pretty carefully. You just can't take them willy-nilly. In terms of my supplements that I do take turmeric. The evidence is sort of mixed around that, but I take it potentially for some anti-inflammatory properties and just sort of that osteoarthritis and joint health. But like I say, there isn't good quality evidence supporting that, but I still choose to take it anyway. I also take some collagen
Collagen, yeah.
as well, and the evidence there is really promising and it's still coming out. But in terms of, so again, for joints, but also it may help in terms of improving recovery from injuries as well. So that's really quite promising, that area of research.
Is it okay to eat immediately after exercise? If yes, what is your suggestion to eat?
Absolutely. But a lot of people don't feel like eating immediately after exercise. It would depend on the exercise that you've done. So if you've gone for a long run, you'll want to probably include some form of carbohydrate, simple carbohydrate, to replace your muscle glycogen. So that might be just some jelly snakes, etc. And having that protein ingestion that we talked about. If you've done some strength-based activity and again, it depends what your goals are. So I think if you're trying to sort of lose weight, something like your branched chain amino acids, where you've got a low calorie liquid that you're ingesting, might be really beneficial if your goal is to lose weight. So you're not adding, extra sort of calories in, but you still want to get that benefit of, you know, promoting muscle synthesis and so on. If you're if you're training for performance and you want to be able to recover for the next day, so it really does depend on what your goals are. Should you eat immediately after exercise? You don't have to, but it depends on what you want to get out of it. And for the average Joe that's just incorporating the physical activity as part of their daily routine, it's just sticking with your regular meal schedule. It's perfectly fine.
Good job, Leech. What's the funniest, most ridiculous fad diet you have encountered?
Well, before my kind of interest in nutrition probably stemmed from the fact that I was a little bit crazy about nutrition and I loved fad diets. I did. I was just like everybody else.
In the elliptical.
Because fad diets sound scientific, and you know we get
Everything sounds scientific.
Everything
if you market it
sounds
correctly.
They can cherry pick any little bit of science and make it sound plausible to the average person. So I bought the book. It would have been over 20 years ago now.
What was it?
The blood type diet.
What's that?
Well, so you got to eat according to your blood type.
How is that even relevant?
Well,
The blood type
Blood
diet.
type, I wouldn't even know what my blood type is.
You work in hospital.
Man, I've been to the doctor in like years.
Ballarat GPs, we need a sponsor.
so again, it's like some dude who, you know, calls himself a doctor with some sort of, it just goes and decides to write a book because he has it's really, these things are around belief systems. They're not actually, you know, based in good evidence. So they might have a theory that they believe, and so the blood type diet's related to some sort of evolutionary thing about there was O and then coming along A, and you know, like you would eat foods like as a hunter-gatherer if you're an O, and then I don't know.
So you're a hunter gatherer.
Amazing, what were you?
I'm a B positive kind of person.
So did you get to eat
I was
positive
quite a varied diet, so I don't think there was too much to avoid. But again, you know, every diet had increased, you know, fruit and vegetables, but some would say limit dairy, limit things. So a fad diet, how do you spot a fad diet? Well, you know, you can spot a fad diet if it's going to say it's going to be fat burning, improve your metabolism.
Yeah. Like 8-week challenge.
7-minute abs.
You're a dog.
Anything that looks like it should be in a show bag,
Yeah.
it's full of shit.
Yeah. Usually it talks about there's some sort of evil food, you know.
Yeah, like dairy,
Dairy, carbohydrates.
carbs, no carbs.
Yeah.
Seriously, have a potato.
Yeah. Dr. Oz is probably
Oh
involved.
yeah, yes, yep. It's come off some American TV channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I do love watching infomercials for fad diets. And then the British lady from Denos comes out and she runs, and I lost. It goes on about, and it's amazing. I'm like, surely people can't think that this is going to be okay.
So at the end of the day, when people bring out books and they've got this idea and theory about how, you know, this is the secret to good health and weight loss, etc., they're getting a commercial gain from that book.
Yeah.
So, and they've cherry-picked particular evidence to suit that belief system. Often they've probably got a PhD from a a dodgy institution.
Online.
They, you know, so,
Good to know.
yeah. And I guess, and this is not to kind of diss on CrossFit, but when they say, you know, read widely, read books, you got to be careful when you're just going and pulling the latest book about a particular science, you know, trend off the shelf, because it hasn't gone out for peer review. So the advantage of when we do science, and the type of science I do, is that I'll do a study or even if I write a review about something, it goes out to peer review. So experts in that field that can, you know, you've got to consider the whole weight of the evidence. And, you know, evidence is often very grey. So books that get written by various people that call themselves doctors are often based on their ideas and theories that isn't always backed up by really good quality evidence. So yeah, you just need to be careful about what you read.
I
So is
love
your
that.
book
The
coming
blood
out?
type.
You
My
gonna write a book?
When does your book? Imagine that.
That's what I want to read.
That would be amazing. I would love that. Portion sizes. Is it still a rule of thumb to eat your fist size of
Is it palm or
protein?
fist?
Yeah, it depends. How big's your fist? Look, I think the good rule of thumb in terms of, I think this is, they're referring to meat, a good meaty fist.
A meaty fist.
Meaty fist.
That's probably a pretty good
That's a
portion
good
size
chicken
rule.
breast there, isn't it?
So if you've got your plate, you got half your plate with your vegetables, yeah, on one
Yeah.
side, and then you've got your palm of your protein, and then you've got your carbohydrates. That's a pretty good rule of thumb, but the guidelines now, particularly in relation to red meat, is no more than 350 grams a week. Yeah.
Week.
So do you measure your food?
That's you in one sitting, isn't it?
It would be, yeah.
G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Sitting
Really
with a T-bone.
primal diet. Only meat.
Yeah.
Only red meat.
Wait, wasn't that something else? Wasn't that Atkins? Wasn't that Atkins or something?
Oh,
Did all the
Atkins.
meat?
Yeah,
that's
that's
all fat.
bad for your cholesterol.
Wasn't that terrible? Oh,
But then
Lord.
people, so that's kind of like that ketogenic diet in some ways. So you're having fat, very little carbohydrates. But again, it's about the type of food you're choosing. So just going
Absolutely.
crazy on butter and meat fat, like, it's not going to do you any favours. Yes, you'll probably still lose weight because you're cutting out whole food groups again. But, ooh.
Yeah, not going to get
Not
by meat
good.
fat.
Here we go. This is the last one, and it's just the most special one. Is there any link between how many meals or snacks I have and what time of day I consume said snacks with high blood pressure and hypertension?
So this
I
is-
reckon you would know a lot about this, Dr. Leech.
So this was asked by Dr. Adam Muscles Grady.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm
Blood
wrong.
pressure and hypertension.
Good, thanks. I'm not you.
I think Adam could be referring to one of my publications in the European Journal of Nutrition.
Good for yourself.
Yeah, so in terms of my research, I've really focused on eating frequency. And this really stems from, there was always advice about, if you eat small meals and graze throughout the day, that's actually going to support weight loss. But, the research, and most recent research actually says that's not true. That grazing is actually more likely to be detrimental, it encourages you to overconsume, and the timing of those meals, particularly if we're eating later in the day, so we're potentially skipping breakfast, we're grazing, and we're also eating, into the evening, later in the evening, is associated with some poorer health outcomes, including sort of higher blood pressure and also other cardiovascular risk factors as well.
What are your
Regular
thoughts?
meals, again, and if you do have the snack, making sure it's a high quality snack where possible. And I think, most of us have this tendency to want to eat, particularly in that afternoon period, the snack, you're going to get dip in those levels, and there is I think,
They also sell chocolate.
you probably want to choose a less healthy snack. And look, the evidence around, because I've looked quite closely at snacks and what people are eating in terms of the Australian diet, and meals are associated with better sort of diet quality overall, but snacks are really variable. And I think snacks get a really bad rap because they're associated with having highly processed sort of junk type foods. But actually snacks can be a really good source of nutrition. And I think if you think about older people, snacks become really important about getting their nutrient intakes in.
So here's my question with you with snacks. See, when I snack, I might have a portion of like a mini meal, if that makes sense. So I might have, no, this is no joke. So if I cook like roast veggies and like chicken and all that sort of stuff, I'll cook extra. And then when I snack, I might have like, I don't know, that much of a tiny container full of roast veggies and just heat up and like I can snack on that.
Brilliant.
Or I might have like a mini tiny, but they're like mini meals. Because like I feel like a meal because I'm hungry. Like I'm not going to get any benefit from. I try to think of biscuits. I do have one of them after my mini snack, but I have like a mini meal.
But you've just said roast vegetables, so your mini meal is then becoming a really high quality.
Like it'll only be like that much worth of little roast veggies.
Roast veggies are good.
Yeah.
Especially after they're in the fridge.
Yeah, like I just put them in the fridge and then I'll get in like a nap and a snack.
And looking
Yeah.
at snacks for most people, they're not going to contain vegetables. That's a great way.
So yeah, I feel really good about
I
myself.
thought you were talking about chocolate finger biscuits and I feel the stuff.
But even having things like, you know,
And meals worth of power.
cherry tomatoes and carrot sticks, cucumber sticks with a bit of hummus dip, you know, trying to get the vegetables in.
Hummus.
Hummus.
Hummus or hummus?
Hummus.
I say hummus.
I say hummus.
You say hummus? I say hummus or hummus?
Hummus.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
Some additional roast veggies cooked in some olive oil.
Oh yeah, only ever olive oil.
Yeah,
mate.
olive oil is the bee's knees.
Olive oil.
If you're gonna
No,
choose, olive
make
oil,
me sick.
What about coconut oil?
Makes me feel
Actually
dense.
not as good.
Really? I don't really like it.
This is good.
I'm not a huge fan.
coconut oil is fine to use with that moderation.
It's too rich for me. I think.
Rich.
But olive oil,
Rich, too expensive, isn't it?
I generally only stick with olive oil.
Yeah.
The benefits of olive oil are pretty clear, but you need to go an extra virgin olive oil.
Yes.
It has to be extra virgin, and you know it's got polyphenols in it, which is that's the bioactive component that can be positive. So that's not in all of the olive oil. So you get just olive oil, and then but you've got to get that extra virgin olive oil.
So I've been buying the right oil all this time. Don't need.
Other on stuff.
Yeah, extra virgin olive oil.
And you know, as part of a Mediterranean diet, that's consumed quite liberally. So you're adding it to things like, you're using it in your cooking, but you're also adding that into your salads and other foods. So, be generous with the use of olive oil.
Oh, I love it.
And coconut oil, sometimes people might like to use that in terms of their baking. It's got particular properties because it's got that saturated fat content in it. So it may be more practical to use in some cooking situations. But in terms of I guess that was another fact, paleo, coconut oil, is fantastic. You've got to remember, the whole coconuts, on an island, people are eating fish and they're having, a pretty high fibre diet. Just taking the oil out of the coconut and putting it in something with agave, nectar, syrup, or something like that, and promoting it as a health food is actually just a bullshit. So you're just having sugar and you're just having fat.
So you're better
off. I personally, if I'm going to go, here is my donut made out of coconut oil and agave, whatever, syrup.
Yeah.
You
And there's my butter and caster sugar donut. What am I going to probably enjoy more? I'm going to go for, if you're going to have a treat, you may as well enjoy it. But this idea of guilt-free snacks and guilt-free things, I'm probably going to encourage you to overconsume anyway, and it's misleading. So, sugar is sugar at the end of the day. It's a bit like salt is salt, so just because it's pink and, from there,
Pink salt. I love my pink salt.
Taste better.
Doesn't it have more minerals in it?
Trace minerals, but like you're getting enough of those minerals.
Is that one of those things
anyway.
though? It's like it's got trace stuff, but it's like to have the benefit of that, you're gonna have to have 700 kilos of the big Himalayan salt. Is it one of them?
Fucking good.
Trace minerals. It's trace minerals that because you've got a pretty good diet, that it's not actually adding any benefit.
Cheeky bit of turmeric.
But it's sodium chloride. It's like too much salt in your diet, regardless of where it's coming from, and how wonderful the sea salt is. It's still going to increase your blood pressure. People don't like to hear that, so people get angry on, say salt's bad. They're like, no, because everyone loves their salt. They don't want to cut it out. It's one of those things. But we get so much salt from our food supply. you know, you don't actually have to add any salt to your meal, and I guarantee you pretty much your sodium intake will probably, you'd be exceeding requirements. Because in breads, it's very pervasive. It's a food supply issue. But yeah, there's no miracle salt. That's again people promoting that sort of pseudo-scientific kind of advice.
That's all our questions. Do you want to answer any other questions?
Yeah. Where do you stand on chia seeds and the benefits?
Chia seeds. Oh, I don't like them.
Yeah, I think it's in chia seeds.
Chair, I thought you said chair seats.
Chia seeds.
Cheers versus seeds.
Chia seeds. No, chia seeds.
You know,
Try.
we sit too much, Timmy.
We do sit don't we?
So you wouldn't want to.
No, seriously, chia seeds. Timmy wants to know about chia seeds. I don't like that for me at all.
Yeah.
I find that they are harmful because they get stuck in your teeth.
Yeah.
Any forms of seeds and nuts, if you can include them in your diet, go for it. But,
Get some nuts up in you.
Get
you know,
nuts.
get some nuts, get some seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. But chia seeds, like they're little and they're probably expensive and they get caught in your teeth. I prefer a bigger seed personally myself, but
Like an avocado seed or?
but again, it's not. There is no such thing as a superfood. So this idea of superfoods, yeah,
It's a myth, is it?
yeah. There's no one except for blueberries. So blueberries are pretty good in terms of antioxidants and.
Yeah. There's a real nice blueberry jam too.
But then we just learned about how it, yes, but
The
how it
process
loses
takes
all that,
all of the good
all
stuff.
the goodness because it's been processed. We learn about that.
What about frozen fruit?
Yeah, so when you've got those snap frozen foods,
Yeah.
they're still going to have the nutritional benefits. But I guess, you know, what's more satisfying, you know, yes, you got the nutritional quality there because it's being maintained through the freezing. But I don't know, those blueberries that are frozen just don't do it for me in terms of
putting in
the,
shape.
What about shakes and stuff?
Yeah. What do you got for a shake?
In shape.
yeah, so in shakes, you're retaining the whole blueberry within the shake. But, you know, but with anything, how many blueberries you're adding in and all the other, you've got a pretty calorie dense kind of thing, which is almost like a mini meal in a liquid form as well. So
Just don't count blueberries.
blueberries are great, adding it in a shake, as long as you're getting them in.
When they're not $8 a
Yeah.
pound.
Yeah.
So yeah, so frozen vegetables and frozen blueberries are perfectly fine in terms of their nutritional value. It just may not be as satisfying to eat as the, you know, freshly boiled stuff.
Look at all that. Look at all the things we've learned. For all these questions.
Each vegetables.
Yeah.
And you know,
I'll just continue with my
and what you eat dictates your preferences. And it's like with anything, if you're gonna, you know, if you've grown up on simple carbs and high sugar diet,
Mediterranean food.
pasta and potatoes.
you know,
I love pasta.
foods, your leafy greens are far more bitter. So transitioning and changing takes preferences. It can happen, but it takes time. It's like you said, you've got to push through that window of, you know, with your intermittent fasting.
Yep.
And then it seems to, you were hungry, but now you're not hungry. You're quite used to that. Same thing with anything, you know, you can change your taste preferences, but you have to be committed in terms of the long term. So, and I think a good example of, you know, people who drink low-fat milk and full cream milk, and people that like their low-fat milk can't stand that mouthfeel and the fattiness of that. So you become sensitive. So you can, change your taste preferences over time.
There you go, abs.
Still leave me bits and pieces. I just roast them. I just roast
But
them
we do.
properly.
We have an innate preference for sweet things. And you know, we get positive brain from eating chocolate, for example, that dopamine release, so then that reinforces us to want to eat that food.
There they go.
No juice.
But if you deny yourself
You know what, I'd
food,
still choose mashed potatoes over chocolate. If I had the choice, yeah.
dark chocolate, you know, if you can find a good dark chocolate that you like, you know, having that, you know, not in too big an amount, a good treat.
If you could only eat one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes?
So it's got to be a food.
Well, what else would it be?
Coffee, wine.
I know, but you can have that.
You can have that.
Food wise.
Anything that's not water.
That's my vice. Okay.
We live off white potato, can't you?
I'd go pizza. Fuck. Dessert pizza, normal pizza,
Funny pizza.
bundy
I'd
pizza,
still go mashed potatoes.
over pizza.
I love mashed potatoes. They make me so happy. I love them.
Poor potatoes. Potatoes been unfairly harshly
The
treated.
potato just
over
gets
the
sledged for no reason.
Well, that's because a lot of the
bad for
time what we're
potato.
doing with the potatoes is we're cutting it up and we're deep frying in some oil. But the potato, especially with the skin
Just
on,
even chop it up and steam it and I'll be happy.
Baked potatoes.
Yeah. Boil them and then you chuck a bit of butter in it. Oh, that's good.
I do love mashed potato. But then, you know, you add in butter and
Salt, whatever.
Pink salt.
Pink salt.
a good baked potato, you know, roast potatoes and olive oil, keep the skin on. You get a lot of benefits from the skin in terms of nutrients and fibre.
Yum.
I'm making my own chips and keeping the skin on, so using the air fryer, you know,
Yeah, use the
mixing
air
them
fryer.
with olive oil to make my own chips.
Yeah.
With potatoes, look, you know, sweet potato chips.
I'm a fan.
Sweet potato annoys me because I feel like it offends the white potato.
I'll sweet potato.
Look,
So
again,
sweet.
just enjoy.
Just
enjoy
white
the-
potato and pumpkin makes me so happy. Roast, I could just eat roast potato and roast pumpkin. Oh, and roast holly. Roast.
Potatoes, if you're cooking them and then eating them cold, like so you heat them up.
Amazing. Just taste them.
Great form of resistant starch. Your bowel is
Yes.
going to love you.
I love it.
So to create good bacteria.
No spuds. That's
I
a good
do.
snack then.
Yeah.
I do.
No.
Same with actually the same with pasta. So when we
No
cook
wonder I'm a
pasta,
picture of her.
when we cook pasta and if we eat it cold, it's a good form of resistant starch. Yeah. So it's basically it's changing in that sort of carbohydrate structure within that food. Creates a kind of resistant starch, like a form of fibre that's used by as fuel by the.
This is why I like talking to Leech about food because I get sledged so much about white potatoes and pasta. Then you talk to Leech and I feel really good about it.
And I kind of say don't overthink your farts.
Do what?
You know, flatulence is normal. People
Like,
get-
no, what if you can't fart?
Well, you are an exception to the rule, Abby. Like I say, you have not moved.
Hey, you do- you burp a lot?
Your,
Yeah, I burp a lot.
your
Inverted
dietary,
fart.
Inverted fart. An inverted fart.
your dietary preferences have not moved beyond that of an 8-year-old.
Yeah, Vegemite
So you do
toast.
not like bits in your yogurt. You only like sweet. You like.
I think it comes with OCD. You know what, poor mum, when I was a child, I couldn't stand things touching on the plate.
Yeah.
Irritated.
Drink juice with pulp.
No,
I don't know.
ever. I need to floss my teeth whilst I'm drinking. And it's like, that's I've always got some weird sensory thing. I
Oh,
like it.
pulp.
Oh,
Yeah, it's good.
it creeps me right out.
And would you say you still have that neophobia? There's a new food that you can't make sense of. Will that are you likely to try it or?
No, I get Shannon to try and he'll tell me if I like it and then I eat it. Isn't that what marriage is? Shannon, try this. Let me know what I think about it. He'll go, you will love this. I'm like, oh, sweet. Because he knows that if I don't, I mean, look, it's not a great situation. Yeah.
But you know, foods can give you a bit of gastrointestinal discomfort. But that's not always a bad thing, you know, because there's stuff going on. Your gut has particular types of fibre. You know, they make you feel bloated. They make you fart a bit. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but there is a tendency now to overthink a lot of what's going on.
Be grateful of your farts.
Yeah, some people have a genuine condition called irritable bowel syndrome, but you know, that's that's a minority for the most part of it. It's just having some bloating and farting is pretty normal, and it should be telling you that you're feeding your.
Embrace the farm.
You've had the baked beans, you know, good form.
Oh, I love baked beans.
Totally.
Baked beans on toast.
No,
Do you go the salt and juice?
Used to, but it's pretty much irrelevant, isn't it? I don't really take a notice now when I pick up. I used to go for the salt and juice.
Yeah. I would still go for the salt.
You still go for the, alright, I'll go back to the salt and juice.
Yeah.
Get salt juice and
I think I do pick it up with this blue on the inside. I'm a Heinz. I'm a Heinz. Yeah. I'm a Heinz for my spaghetti jaffle. And I'm a Heinz for my bacon.
Jaffle Heinz, how good are they?
Yes.
The greatest recipe of Jaffle Heinz, burning them out and the tin spaghetti that come out.
That is sometimes, yeah, that's one that I really enjoy. Jaffle, a spaghetti jaffle. So you sort of just get on into it and put it on and just like.
Do you use it off taco with the jaffle?
She would.
Spaghetti?
Do you know, as a kid, what I would do in part of that is I would do the spaghetti in there, and then I would add in little bits of extra cheese.
Yes.
So the cheese would be on that and it would ooze out.
Yeah, see, that's one of those things, the textural thing where I'm like, no, it's just spaghetti. It's just a weird. It's like everyone goes, oh, you love chocolate. I'm like, yeah, I just love plain chocolates though. I'm not like that. I have a
Like dairy milk.
quadruple, double dipped chocolate heaven melting thing.
If you're going to choose, it's like a discretionary food or junk food, chocolate is
Dairy.
the only downside is it's just very calorie dense. But chocolate and just plain chocolate and all
No, I
those
can't deal with
bells
it.
and whistles that are introducing other bits of sugar and
You know when they like, you get all these things and like cut it and all those Cheetos is out, chocolate on the chocolate on the chocolate on the chocolate. I don't like those things. I just like the
The chocolate's good.
I like hazelnuts in my chocolate.
You love the nut, don't you, Leech?
I'm a fan of nuts.
There you go. You've learned everything about nutrition.
And you got
Everything.
I'm gonna keep me mashed potato and my veggie snacks
and your donuts.
and my donuts and my chocolate fingers.
So let's just, if we're going to finish on something,
Yeah.
let's sort of go over how we find reliable sources of nutrition information.
Oh god, how do you do that?
Speak to the
Well,
doctor.
so
I just
that-
refer everyone to bed.
So
course you
this
do.
is a bit of a plug. So if you're looking at sports performance,
Yep.
Sports Dietitian Australia website is great fact sheets for understanding the evidence in relation to supplements, etc. For me, because I come across all of the nutrition science and evidence that comes out, I like to follow on Facebook. Actually, a lecturer that taught me is Dr. Tim Crow. So he has a blog called Thinking Nutrition.
What a great name.
Yeah, Thinking Nutrition, in terms of he's just able to communicate the latest science in a really easy to understand way. He manages to find great infographics to help you understand things as well. And he can break down any of the new kind of fads and stuff. So, and I guess anything in terms of, I guess, sort of those government-based sort of websites around dietary guidelines as well. Yeah, and even in terms of nutrition advice, Harvard University, they often provide summaries about the science in a really easy to understand way in terms of different areas about eating. So I like to use them when I need to go for sort of evidence-based summaries of information. Yeah, so there are some reliable sources that you can go to that break it down. Yeah. And again, just find someone that actually is accredited and actually has done the study.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different nutrition courses. There's people calling themselves nutritionists. that actually have, don't have the required training.
Yeah.
Eat the food.
Don't eat the food, choose the food. Yep. And if you're going to cut out anything, cut out the caloric drinks that you don't need, that aren't actually providing you with any nutritional benefit,
Yeah.
and that aren't contributing to that sense of fullness as well. So that's a pretty simple place to start. Ditch the Coke. Just the soft drink.
I don't remember the last time I had Coke.
No, I don't like it.
That being
I
said,
actually only like
Coke is alright if you're, say, sports performance, those events.
Yeah.
Coke's
They
actually.
hand out Coke at the island.
Yeah, because you've got the caffeine in there and the sugar
Yeah.
as well.
That is actually probably the
Yeah,
last time I
fine.
had Coke. Is the last like with the run on the Ironman, and I took a Coke. So I remember you saying to me, "You feel like shit just got on."
Yeah, I'd go right over the Coke.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I actually
Just don't like Coke.
Yeah.
Lemonade.
And remembering that when you're choosing your, say, sugar, so those non-nutritive sweetened beverages, so your Diet Cokes and that, we don't really fully understand the metabolic effects, even though yes, there's no calories, how your body's responding in terms of brain responses and other metabolic things we don't fully understand. And remember, you're just reinforcing that sweet preference.
Yeah.
So those artificial sweeteners are like 100 times the sweetness of sugar. So what effects that's having as well. Yeah, so a lot of those, supplements and things will have some artificial sweetener in, so you just kind of want to consider that.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Leechy.
No worries. Anytime.
Dr. Work.
Rebecca Leech.
Dr. Rebecca Leech.
Dog.
The dog.
And I should say all opinions and advice that I've given today are that of my own and not representative of my organisation or other.
Just Leechy's.
Just Leechy.
Just out of Leechy's little noodle.
Peace.
Leechy, eat the nuts.